Welcome into the PHNX Cardinal podcast presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, leave a 5-star review. I'm Johnny Venerable, joined by the great Frank Sanders and my good friend Espo. We're talking Arizona Cardinal football on a Friday. Gentlemen, how we doing?
But I don't get the great just because I didn't catch any balls in the NFL. I'm not considered great. I didn't go to Auburn, so I'm not great. I see how it is.
Hey, take it easy. Yeah, we love you, Espo. Quit playing around. Without you,
how are
we
you,
wouldn't
Frank?
even be here. Doing good, brother. It's a happy, what day is it, Friday? Hell yeah. It's Friday.
Can't be. By the way, is there a rule that you can't be like more than 20 feet away from your golf clubs at any particular time?
Absolutely. Where I go, they go.
He's big time.
That's like the presidential football right there.
He's getting ready for the waste management coverage that we got going on all of next week. But here on a Friday, we're going to talk a little Cardinals, as we always do here at 3 p.m. PHNX Cardinals Live. And gentlemen, I'm excited to dive into this first topic with you because we haven't had a chance to discuss this. So about 7 to 10 days ago, it was rumored that Byron Leftwich, heavily rumored that Byron Leftwich, former Arizona Cardinal offensive coordinator, was going to become the new head coach in Jacksonville, right? He has ties there, of course, once upon a time, a top draft pick of the Jaguars. And then it came out that not so fast. He doesn't love Trent Baalke. A lot of people push back on Baalke, the general manager there. Long story short, Mike Jurecki, who I didn't see this because I'm blocked by Mike. Mike unblocked me. I don't know why I'm blocked. Mike Jurecki put out a tweet basically saying that it's 99% done deal that Adrian Wilson, Cardinals VP, will be the next GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He and Leftwich are boys. And that was going to become the new tandem in Jacksonville. And that had real momentum, so much so that when CHIERSTIN and I discussed it, and I thought, good for Adrian, Cardinals get a comp pick from it. And then everything kind of went dark upwards of like the last 5 days. And then lo and behold, we get this announcement on Twitter yesterday that Byron Leftwich expected to pull out of consideration for the Jaguars head coaching gig, and much of that coming in the form of Baalke gritting his teeth and refusing basically to step away as GM, Shad Khan, the owner, enabling Baalke kind of turning people off there. Long story short, Baalke won the power struggle. Leftwich not going there, which means Adrian Wilson is not going to Jacksonville. So then, I start to speculate that, we've got a coach and a GM, Espo, that are on an island for 1 year. Winter, probably you're gone, and Steve Keim and Kliff Kingsbury. Is it crazy to suggest that the Cardinals, who love to hire internally with their general managers, Adrian Wilson, Byron Leftwich tandem in Arizona in 2023. What do you think?
Well, first off, I mean, anytime if you're Khan in Jacksonville that you can keep a guy who's had as a general manager 4 different coaches in 4 years, I believe, you just got to do it, right? I mean, nothing says logic like that. Let's just keep the guy in his job when we got an up-and-comer that wants to come here and wants to bring an up-and-coming GM as well. But look, what's crazy to me is Leftwich beloved in Jacksonville. He became the second most highest selling jersey in Jacksonville behind Trevor Lawrence, after this rumor emerged. Like, that's insane. His jersey from decades ago was selling because of that. And they still find a way to go, you know what? Nah, screw that. Why would we want to do what the fans want? Let's keep this guy that doesn't know what he's doing as GM and spurn this coach. Now, to your question, though, I said on this program, I think it was Monday. It feels like a lifetime ago, but I think it was Monday, that I would consider Adrian Wilson now here in Arizona as the GM, because I haven't seen what I need to believe in this tandem. So next year, if you don't see what you need to from Kliff Kingsbury, if this team doesn't live up to what they what was expected of them after that fast start this year, 7-0, if they don't live up to those expectations, I think it's time for a change. And why wouldn't you look at a guy in Byron Leftwich for your head coach that has played quarterback in this league? He's familiar with the Valley, which we know Michael Bidwell loves to, and the Bidwell family, since they've owned the team, loves to have people that are familiar with the organization when in a lot of these moves. So that would check that box. And then you get to promote Adrian Wilson from within to step into that GM role. I think it's not a bad idea at all. We'll see. I mean, it's tough. Steve Keim, I can't pin this whole year on, right? Because he did make roster moves that made this team better, right? But it's the draft picks. It's the having Vance Joseph as your defensive coordinator who's unwilling to play those young guys that you've drafted in the first round. Those kind of moves make me question things. So if this next year doesn't go where you want, this would make a lot of sense as the next head coach GM pairing in Arizona.
Frank, what about you? Former players now would be running the Arizona Cardinals. Byron Leftwich, Adrian Wilson, they played around the same time. Would you be in support of that pairing this time next year?
You know, just to touch back a little bit on something, I look back and I say, there's a formula for losing. And I think that the general manager over in Jacksonville has definitely shown he knows the formula on how to lose. And I think that would have been a good decision if they would have kept Byron Leftwich and made the decision to remove the general manager. But apparently that's not on the table. I would not be opposed for these two guys coming back because they did their time and their due diligence. Look, you got a former quarterback that knows pretty much he has done his part, which is done all the internship of becoming quarterback's coach, leading to offensive coordinator, under great tutelage of how to deal with people. A head coach has to know how to deal with people, and I don't think you're going to find anybody else than Bruce Arians to know how to get 53 guys mentally ready and to come together on a Sunday, Monday, or Thursday night football game, ready to play football because he knows how to deal with them. Look, Adrian Wilson has been through this. He's been through this organization. He's seen what it's like to be with Mike Bidwell as a player / now as some person in management. That's not always an easy transition for a lot of players to go from a player owner role to now somebody in personnel dealing with the owner still. Those are two different decisions, two different mindsets. So, but he's shown to be that guy as he's moved up the ranks. So I would not be opposed to that if that did happen.
I want to get to some of these. Go ahead, Espo.
I was just going to say, let's also, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, was Leftwich's success just because of Tom Brady? And to me, the one thing that stands out is in 2019 when the Bucs were, before Tom Brady was there, the Bucs were first in yards per game at 302.8 and fourth in points per game in the NFL at 28.6 with Jameis Winston.
He did fantastic work with Jameis.
Yes.
Absolutely. To me, Leftwich would have been a slam dunk hire in Jacksonville. I don't dislike Doug Peterson. I actually think he's a good coach and somebody that I thought would have been a good fit for this team had they moved off of Cliff Kingsbury, Super Bowl ring and all, but it's a weird fit in Jacksonville. Jalen says, what makes us think ADub would be a good GM? He has been Keim's right-hand man for a few years now. I don't know if he's making the final decision or isn't, but he bears some culpability in the front office failure. I think, Jalen, I'll agree with you to some extent that I think most people who feel like Adrian Wilson would be a good fit is just the comfort level of, okay, we got somebody else that has won with this franchise. Let's give them a shot. I would love to see proof of some of the moves and influence that Adrian Wilson has had. But I mean, if he's getting interviews around the league, he's qualified. And I think that for me, it's just, could he go somewhere else and have success? That would be the biggest telling point. If the Cardinals had let him go and he would have taken the Jacksonville job and they rattle off a couple division titles, you know, I would like to see, because we don't know what Steve Keim allows and delegates from his vice presidents. That would be my only concern.
Look, we've hired a head coach that had a losing record from Little League to college. I'm just playing on the Little League joke, so that's a joke. But we hired a guy with no experience, so please don't ask for experience in the NFL. There's multiple coaches that have been hired as the head coach of a lot of prominent franchises that were assistant water boys. They were assistant tight end coaches. They were special team coaches. So to actually have to have facts or to have proof of what somebody's done in the NFL, I think that has lost its luster of having to have an acumen or credibility of being capable of doing that job. Honestly, right now, I don't think that matters. I think it matters on who they want to bring in, and then they sell us the pitch. Everyone else gets the pitch. Like, hey, don't worry about it. This guy's gonna be great. He has this, he has that, he has the mindset. He was under the tutelage of, or he sat alongside the head coach the former head coach of the New York Giants, was a special teams coach. And only reason why he got that job primarily is because they said he was under Bill Belichick. So at the end of the day, what you've done in that particular job, I just don't find it to be the necessary end all to be all on hiring somebody for that job or position.
I want to highlight this super chat. Sean Marks, $4.99. Thank you so much, Sean. Sean, friend of the program. I'd love to get them here. To be honest, Leftwich has done a good job in Tampa, and I think time under Bruce Arians is time well spent. Too many Cardinal fans probably look at his time as the interim OC with Josh Rosen and Steve Wilkes, and that's maybe clouded a little bit of judgment. But these years working with Tom Brady and Bruce Arians in an education and an offensive play calling, sign me up for that. And I think if the Cardinals were to make a move next year, you would find me at the front of the line for somebody like Byron Leftwich to come here and coach Kyler Murray, because part of that conversation, Espo, would be, let's get Kyler Murray to the next level. You're not doing that with all due respect, one of these defensive coaches that's available, with a Brian Flores, somebody like that. I would want somebody who takes Kyler Murray from a fringe Pro Bowler, nice player, can't put together a complete season, to who's going to get him to an MVP caliber season. And I think Byron could do that.
Well, and Byron understands the pressure that he's under. And Kliff doesn't. I mean, I hate to say it, but Kliff was a third string clipboard holder, at quarterback. This isn't a guy that fully grasped the pressure that Kyler Murray's feeling as a top draft pick with a franchise that has had historically bad luck with guys that they draft at that position. So I think he could gain a lot from that, and he's also shown that he's a good offensive mind. He's been able to do it in Tampa, So I would love to see what he could do with Kyler Murray. I don't want to act like I'm pouring dirt on Kliff Kingsbury already. I mean, he has taken a step each year, but if they backslide even a little in the second half of next year, you got to make a move, because your championship window is the window that Kyler Murray isn't getting paid too much, because then you can afford other guys. That's coming to a close very quickly. You can't waste that. And you got to make sure, if you're going to commit long-term to a full kind of max deal that you're going to give to Kyler Murray, that he's actually the guy. And you can't have the question of, well, is this Kliff or is this Kyler that is, having the issues offensively? You need to answer all this, and you need to answer it in short order, because that runway's, you're coming to the end of it, and you got to figure it all out.
Part of bringing Leftwich on would be to elevate Kyler, and if you're paying him upwards of $40 million per season, Kyler then has to carry you and a roster that's up against the cap. Absolutely. Brandon says on here, Jacksonville management is one word, idiotic. I would agree with that. Our buddies at Burgain Travel pass. Well, I know this is likely Tyler, and Tyler's a supporter of Kliff Kingsbury, which I appreciate, right? And we're going to run it back. People who like this administration are going to get to see it one more time at minimum.
Look, I thought he was just calling out what all of Kliff Kingsbury's plays are. That's just his playbook. Pass. That's all that you got, right?
I like this question here. Do we really think Leftwich made the playbook in Tampa or calls the plays? What were his duties? He was the play caller. I mean, he collaborated with Bruce Arians. I mean, Bruce Arians is an offensive savant, but I mean,
let me add this to the notation also, Johnny. There's no playbook that's created by one person. Yeah. Every play, and for the most part, over the last 45 to 50 years, plays have been stolen and combined and collaborated on all points because of social media and the coaches that have a commonality of coming together in regards to agents and what they do in the offseason. And you can hear this publicly. This is nothing new, but most coaches get together in the offseason. They shoot the crap or they talk about plays and they go over playbooks. Most of them are coming from some form of another team. So as the players have become free agents, the coaches are free agents as well. So look, Todd Bowles just left the Jets. He picked up something. Then you look at Bruce Arians. He was here. He left, and he's gone. Now he's got somebody's playbook. They all do the exact same thing. So, but I do agree with you, Johnny. He does call the plays, but it's a balance.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to have. If you have an offensive-minded coach, and then you also have an offensive coordinator that's on the same page, you guys will tend to get that. But again, what you said earlier, Espo, about Jameis Winston and what he was able to do with him, that it tells you. The only problem was they didn't go get him an eye exam to realize he was colorblind.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, too, like, what do they think? That Leftwich is going to go, all right, I'm going to take this head coaching job at this place, and then all of a sudden, all of Tampa Bay security comes, and they're like, we're confiscating every version of the playbook you've ever had, and we're going to wipe your memory clean of anything you've ever called here in Tampa. You may not bring that anywhere. Like, even if he didn't design every play, it's coming with him.
Yeah.
I still got 5 playbooks in the house right now that I have from teams. And if you want them, you can get them. And guess what? If you want to develop your plays, you can go to Madden. Madden uploads so many playbooks right now that are literally, if you're the coach, you could go get that playbook off of Madden and literally it just created with the same terminology. That's how it's not that hard. But what matters is the play calling and making sure you're putting your guys in the right position to make the plays. That's why we talk about Sean McVay so much, because he does a good job with that, no matter what he has. And that's just something that you just can't really – that's the eye of being a great offensive coordinator and a play caller.
Frank,
NFL AZ card. Go ahead.
Do you have the Buddy Ryan playbook still over there? What is it, like 4 offensive pages and then like 67?
It's half a PDF document.
It is a lot of defensive plays. I got a lot of offensive plays that with Buddy Ryan we didn't even run. So
it's dive right and dive left.
Buddy, JV, Buddy said just don't lose the game. Punt on, run draws on third downs so we can punt the ball so my defense can win the football game. That was Buddy Ryan's secret.
Cardinal fans in the chat, if you think we're having a tough time because the team flamed out at the end of the year but still made the playoffs, go watch some mid to late 90s Cardinal football outside of when my man Frank went to the playoffs. NFL AZ Cardinals asked, why not Eric Bieniemy? 4 straight AFC championships. It's not his fault in case he has bad defenses. I think Eric Bieniemy is waiting for Andy Reid to eventually retire and be the heir apparent there. I think there's some skepticism to a lot of your points in the chat about, okay, Bruce Arians default runs the offense in Tampa. Andy Reid runs the show in Kansas City, and they have Patrick Mahomes. Now, my pushback to that is Matt Nagy got a head coaching job, and say, I mean, like we have an epidemic in the NFL when it comes to hiring black coaches, and that's a perfect example of what went down. Matt Nagy, who kind of fell on his face to end his career, and Bieniemy can't even get interviews right now. It's a joke, but I would at minimum look at Eric Bieniemy next offseason if they were to pivot. A couple other questions. This organization is always promoted from within with a little success. When is it time to make the change and get fresh eyes, fresh perspective outside the organization? Jalen, I'm 100% with you. Dating back to the late 80s, this franchise is always hired from within, and I think you guys can speak on this better than I can. It is a low self-esteem mentality of we don't feel maybe we can get high-ranking executives to leave other organizations to come here, so let's just promote from within. Keim was a promotion from within. Rod Graves was. We're discussing Adrian Wilson. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Some of it's a family business mentality, though, too, and the Bills have always operated this like it is a family business because, in right or wrong, it has been since the 1930s. And when you operate in that mindset, you do tend to reward those that that you're familiar with, that you have helped, formulate their career and help mold them through the years. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me that that's the mentality. The question is, if you look long and hard at it, is it the right mentality to have? And I think that's what Michael Bidwell needs to do whenever that next move has to be made, is seriously ask himself, is this the right thing to do, or am I doing it because it's the thing that has always kind of happened here, the thing that I'm most comfortable with doing, and make that decision at that time?
Comfort and Keim go hand in hand. That's, in my opinion, why he hasn't pivoted off of Steve. He's comfortable with Steve. He's comfortable with the trajectory of the organization that, I mean, they can say they have Super Bowl aspirations, but I mean, just being in the hunt, week 17, that's enough right now for this organization.
I'd be surprised. I think that, today when we talked about ADub and where he might go and hire him from within, and I thought to myself, I said, man, what I'm looking at Keim's, but Keim's over the last 5 or 6 years, I know his drafts ain't been amazing, but the picks he's brought in have been pretty solid names of guys. Like this roster right now got names that I was talking about in the early part of the year. Espo, I will call these guys, this was like a fantasy football lineup that I just never thought would have an AJ Green, a JJ Watts, or a D Hops on the same team. And this is guys that have come from other places who have been successful at other teams. So that was surprising to me. So I can say he's done extremely well and continually giving the fan base something to cheer for. I am going to do like everyone else has done. I'm pretty disappointed in Kliff in the second half of the season for the last 2 years. That's the part that I can't blame Keim for when it comes to the play calling, or I can't blame him for the players getting ready to play or what they need to do on the football field, because the players that he's asked to be here have been pretty much readily available to play. Unfortunately, JJ got hurt, so he's pretty much the one that's out. And then also this year we lost D Hop, so that's not something that he can control, but he's given us that opportunity. The hiring from within, that's why I agree with you. That's just a family business mentality. They've always done that. Look, when I was here in 1995 to 2001, the guys that are the medical staff was the guys that came from St. Louis. And it's the same medical staff they have right here now. And it's just what they are. They
a guy like Jim Alejandro Sr., right? He was one of the guys that came from St. Louis and carried over.
Machine, Jeff, those guys are still there. Mark, Stein, those guys are still in the equipment room. I mean, like, that's just what they do because that's the way Pops ran it. And I agree, you guys, there's something to look at when the formula is not coming to pass. But I can't necessarily say that, look, we've been to the Super Bowl. We've played in division championships, which I didn't get any of that. So I just want to let you guys know. And I've watched steadily to see if this team has grown. And I can say Mike has allowed that to happen with Steve and, of course, Rod Graves when they first got together. But then Steve took over. And I can see that by just giving you, the fans, and me as a former player, something to say that you have talent on the field. Here's the question. The coaches you're hiring, are they developing the guys? Are they positioned? Are they right for the position coach? For 3 years, Larry Fitzgerald had a quarterbacks coach that was coaching him at receiver. Let that sink in so you really figure out what the hell is going on, because not all the coaches that's coaching these positions are made or have played that position. And that's the sad part about the NFL.
Well, I think the other thing, too, you got to look at is scouting department, because Steve Keim relies on his scouts in terms of the draft as well. So is that room where you need it to be? How much is he culpable for first-round picks, those kind of things? And how much are the scouts involved in that? And kind of it's about assessing the entire thing. And I'm sure some of that is even going on right now. I mean, not that I'm saying any changes could be made, but at the end of any season, you have to do a post-mortem. You've got to look at every aspect of your organization and ask, okay, where did we succeed? Where did we fail? What's the cause of this, and how do we get better? And look at all that. So, yeah,
there's talk of that in the chat here that I want to highlight. Mike B says, I like Keim. Some people say Adrian Wilson gets us free agents and talks players come in AZ. I wouldn't mind Adrian Wilson, but I'm good with Keim. Kliff, I'm not so sure about, leaning toward showing him the door. And then we've got some comments on the flip side here, beginning with Derek stating, so then do we run Leftwich out of town if he doesn't win a Super Bowl in 4 years? Seriously can't believe this is a discussion, and that's alluding to the fact that Kliff has gotten better each of his first 3 years with the team, and easy no steroids kind of speaks on that. I feel like the end of the year fades are because of depth, which I know a lot of people are harping on, which easy, I would agree with you there. We are just not built for the war of attrition. Doesn't that fall on Keim? I would agree with that. We let Rasul Douglas walk when we were rolling out rookie defensive backs. I think to that point, we have seen this team go heavy on veteran players, right? Star players that are reaching or over 30 years old. JJ Watt, over 30 years old. Rodney Hudson, over 30 years old. Hopkins turns 30 this year. All those guys got hurt this year. And while those are great, I don't want to call DeAndre Hopkins icing on the cake, but those kind of additions, I think back to remember when the Green Bay Packers won a Super Bowl and they brought in Charles Woodson and that pushed them over the top, right? But it was the nucleus of the players that they had drafted in the early to mid rounds that supplemented the meat and the body of the roster. And we've seen this team not be able to get to the finish line every year because the older players are banged up, and then the other players that they've drafted, like Xavier Collins and then Isaiah Simmons, aren't playing. And I think that does fall on Steve Keim. And I'm not giving, Kliff Kingsbury an out by any means, but I mean, they were banged up. They made it through November without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, but I feel like they ran out of gas in December and January.
Did you ever, when either of you guys, when you were in school, make a volcano, right? I had to do this with my daughter. You take the baking soda, you take the vinegar, and alone, there's nothing. They're just two things, whatever. You mix them together, and it's kind of catastrophic. It's an explosion of sorts. I feel like that's what you have here. You've got Steve Keim that's got the way that he constructs a roster, and then you've got Kliff Kingsbury, who tends to fail later in the season. So you mix these two things together, and you get this chemical reaction of not a lot of depth and a guy that tends to have his teams drop off, and it's a bad mix. And that's what I think happened these last 2 years. Is it doesn't work well together. So which guy can figure it out first? Does Keim change the way he constructs a roster to better fit, so you have that depth, so you don't have that backslide? Or does Kliff figure out what goes on with him and how he makes better adjustments later in the season when teams catch up to what he's doing offensively?
I would truly say that I think it's proven that Kliff is the conduit in this chemical that is not allowing us to reach our fullest potential. The only reason why I'm saying that is because historically it's not just been with the Arizona Cardinals that this has been the same. This has been the same thing. And now we're watching him as if giving him top tier players continually, because the NFL is going to be a consistent mindset that I got to put players on the field. I got to give the fans something to root for and cheer for. And this is a short window of time because it's contract based. It's not like a 4-year where you can go to school and feel like that you're just on scholarship. This is not a scholarship plan. This is a money-based opportunity where you only have a short window of time to make that thing happen. And every coach and every owner right now is looking for that guy that can make it happen in that short window of time. Can you take what I have and make it work, or do what other pieces I need to bring it in to make it work? And I think over the last 2 years, I can say Steve Keim has done that. But I can also say that we have seen the continual residual process of what we've seen out of Kliff Kingsbury. Look, I'm cool with the growing process and allowing guys to grow and all these things, and developing guys and developing coaches. But that's just not the league right now. It's just not the league. The information that's out there, the guys that have the ability to talk about how they feel about the game now, the strategies, what they're able to do. Everything is so database driven and social media run that you have the ability to do the eye test extremely fast right now. And so now you don't have to develop. Now it's, hey, guess what? I can go get that guy. I can go get this guy. And I think that's the same thing. They all are bargain shopping, and they just can get online and find a guy. And sometimes I think that is what's happened. Unfortunately, Kliff has been the conduit in this conversation that has seemed to be the one that you can stand out and say it has not necessarily produced what you wanted to produce.
Put a bow on this conversation, Mike B. Trying to get that quality depth now is going to be tough. Kyler is about to get paid. And Mike, just to support your claim, the 7 of the 10 highest paid players on the Cardinals this season are external, meaning they were not drafted by this organization. Only Budda Baker, DJ Humphries, and Kyler Murray fall within the top 10. That has to change if the Cardinals are looking for sustained success and have Super Bowl aspirations. And speaking of the Super Bowl, the moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here in honor of the big game. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5, get 280 in free bets if your team wins. Not a new customer, you can experience Super Bowl 56 with same game parlays, combine multiple bets from the same game for an even bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code PHNX and get 56-1 odds on either team. It's an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customer only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for more details. Before we get to our final segment, gentlemen, I want to talk to you about something we are very proud of here at PHNX, and that is the debut of the PHNX Rising. We are super excited. We had our first podcast last night, 6 p.m. The guys crushed it on the show. And to celebrate this new extension of PHNX, we got this brand spanking new t-shirt. I'm ordering it. I can't wait to rock it. It is my favorite current scheme, t-shirt color scheme that we got going on. Espo, I am just thrilled about what I'm seeing from the partnership of PHNX and the Rising.
Yeah, look, now we have football and football that we're covering here on the network, and that's what more could anybody want? I mean, that's the gist of this, and we've got a great team, Ramona and Owen over there taking care of everything on that show. I'm excited. Their first show was fantastic, which is tough. We all know that first show is a weird mix of I'm trying to figure out how to work with these new people. I got a camera in my face. There's all these lights. What the hell am I doing? And they pulled it off with excellent skill. I was proud of those guys, and I think you should check it out. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or you can catch it on our YouTube channel. Excited to have them as part of it, and I am a soccer idiot, so I'm looking forward to learning more about the game.
Yes, increase our acumen, but you don't have to have acumen. Just to head over to phnxlocker.com, pick up the new t-shirt, $29.99, or become a member. Go phnx.com for a year's membership. You get a free t-shirt. Make it that one. Shows your support for PHNX Rising. Okay, gentlemen, Pro Bowl this weekend. Espo and I already spent most of PHNX Bets Daily today talking about how we're big-time degenerates and we plan on betting on the Pro Bowl. Cardinals have 5 representatives this weekend, including Kyler Murray. And this is kind of Kyler Murray's default Pro Bowl debut, because last year he was named to the Pro Bowl, but they didn't have it. It was a faux event, right? And maybe they did some stuff. Yeah, it's a Fro Bowl. And they did some stuff virtually. But now we're seeing, like, via Chandler Jones's Instagram Live, etc., like Kyler's out there mixing it up with all of the other elites, the NFL elites, and he's got a kind of a half smile on his face. So my question to both of you is, we've talked about Kyler Murray's leadership and body language ad nauseum. How much could it do for Kyler to be around all of these other greats, not only his teammates, but everybody else, AFC, NFC? Could it change his perspective a little bit? Could it expedite his maturity?
Oh, I mean, obviously, I don't have the experience that Frank does in the locker room, but I imagine being around the best in the business helps you elevate your game, because you see the way they approach it. Even in a Pro Bowl, you see the way that they approach the game. You get to talk to them. You get to pick their brain. You get to learn a little bit more. I think there's nothing but positive. Plus, you can recruit a little, even though you're not supposed to, but you can recruit guys to come join you in the desert. See, Devin Booker in All-Star games, or Chris Paul during the playoffs last year recruiting JaVale McGee. Like, there's ways you can work around that quote unquote tampering thing. But so I think that's another aspect of this that's great for Kyler. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping he'd be in that, like, skills competition that they did last night.
Yeah.
And kind of have some fun, because sometimes I feel like Kyler could use that, just like remembering, oh yeah, this can be fun, and doing something like that. I think probably might have been able to help with that mindset, but I hope being at these practices, being out there on Sunday with this group of guys, can help remind him how much fun this game can be as well.
Look, I will add, as for everything you said is absolutely correct. That's exactly what does take place. But I think that one of the things that I think if I was him, I would be there learning. More important than anything else is, and we've said this a multitude of times on the PHNX podcast, I've always said that you can learn what teams were trying to do to stop you. Yeah. Guys that tell you, like, bro, like, we knew you was that dude that could just, we made sure we put 2 guys in the box to make sure we stop you. We made sure we didn't rush against you, so we stopped with it so that you couldn't just, get outside of the pocket. Guys will start to talk to you. If you're listening well, you just kind of find out what were your weaknesses and your weak points. If you're humble enough to ask those questions, those would be the questions that I think would be the best thing. But if you're listening, guys will tell you how good they thought you were, and how proud they are that you are here, but also they'll tell you what they were doing to stop you. Everything you said earlier, Espo, is absolutely on point. It's supposed to be fun. These guys are supposed to have a great time. He is one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He is a dual threat quarterback that presents a lot of problems. But I think the learning part is learning what teams are trying to do to you. I think that was so helpful for me in my career when I was playing, when I would hear guys say, hey, man, you're the game plan today, Frank. We're going to double team you, because if we stop you and for what you're doing on third down and how bad you are, man, look, you move the chains. If we stop you, then we got nothing to worry about. And I think that helped me, understand what more teams are trying to do to me. I think that would help Kyler immensely if he's listening, because next year, then he'll go back and watch film and he'll say, yep, that's exactly what they were trying to do, because I did this. They knew that I couldn't throw out of my right side, so he kept rushing out of my right side. They knew, so they kind of pushed me to my left to make me throw across my body. That would be so helpful for him while he's at the Pro Bowl with the elite players.
Couple really good comments in the chat I want to highlight. NFL AZ Cardinals, is Kyler enough to bring top talent here in the desert? I think so. Yeah. Number one, I think players want to come here because of the offense that does spread the ball around. I mean, Kliff does start 3 or 4 wide receivers. They've got a tight end prominence now with Zach Ertz. A bunch of running backs get carries. You look at what James Conner did. Say what you want about the Cardinal defense. The Cardinal offense does spread it around, and Kyler Murray is the facilitator there. Easy no steroids adds Kyler should see Jordan Palmer or Kurt Warner. I do think that he'd be best served working with a passing coordinator or somebody like a Kurt Warner in the offseason to work on his intermediate throws. I think really where Kyler kind of dipped at the end of the season was just the extra pressure he put on himself after Hopkins went down. The offensive line, especially on the interior, did not play particularly well. That rhythm passing was really sharp and on display to begin the year, which is why I think he was in the Pro Bowl. But they have to find ways to finish the season, and that goes for Kyler and everybody else.
You know what the first thing, if I were Kyler, that I'd do or would have done this week is when I saw Russell Wilson, I would have gone up to him and said, explain to me what you were talking about when you were part of that Manning cast when we were on there, and you were kind of dissecting my body language, what I wasn't doing on the sideline. Walk me through the mentality, not like accusatory, hey, how dare you, but really be like, hey, walk me through.
Do you think Kyler cares enough to ask that, though? I'm being serious.
Yeah. You should.
He should. We want it for him, but I don't know if he cares enough.
He cares enough. He has not won anything in this league. He hasn't done anything in this league to say that, I don't deserve to be talked to or anything like that. The sign of a great leader is when you watch the guy that's getting it done, then yeah, I think that matters a lot to him. I think that the guy that we want to see, that he wants to bring a championship here to Arizona is important to him. I just think that as a young kid and the things that he's still having to do, look, sometimes when you look at your coach and you realize your coach is not putting you in the best position, what are you gonna say? When you get a play call that that don't work versus defense, what are you gonna say? I'm gonna come back to the sideline, damn near pissed. But we can't talk about that because that's not what we think it is, because we think sometimes it hits the fan on the field and it's not necessarily the player. I think it matters to him. I believe that what he would have done, Espo.
It better if it comes from Espo's point. If it comes from Russell Wilson, of all people, it should matter.
No, everything it does matter, because I think that you still want to win. He's a winner and he wants to win. He's still figuring this thing out in the NFL. But I will say this here, JV, you pointed this out eloquently in the beginning part of your statement was this guy that was in that rhythm passing in the very first parts of the season. This is why I got that K2 tattoo, because he was calling plays that was on point with the skill set of our quarterback and our players. Guys are getting balls that was consistent. Look, excuse me, Casey had 3 or 4 catches a game. Your boy AJ was getting the ball in the first parts of the first quarters. They were throwing the ball and getting him in rhythm, as well as D Hops. It was quick passes, quick throws. They were moving guys around. The second half of the season, that was not the case. And it's just the sad part to say, why we look bad is because we felt like the offense coordinator or the head coach changed calling the way they call plays. And it's probably not the best thing, because we cannot absolutely say that is exactly what happened. But from our eyes, we can say there was a different offense in the first 8 to 10 games of the season and the last 7 to 8 games of the season.
And I think he cares. I mean, the idea that he would be like, no, I wouldn't want to hear what Russell Wilson has to say is like if Dave Pasch made some critique about you or I, Johnny, and we went, no, we're good. We don't need to hear that guy's opinion.
No, I don't care about
not
what
like
he
he's
say.
done anything. We're sitting in home offices and closets, and this guy's on ESPN, but we know. Oh, we know. Like,
you just outed yourself in the closet. Now out of the closet.
I am sitting in a walk-in closet. Everybody knows that has watched me before from my own studio.
Oh man. That's good stuff. There's some comments I want to get to, but before that, I want to remind everybody children 5 or older are eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine is the best tool we have to reduce the chances of getting sick with COVID-19. The COVID-19 vaccine can reduce the risk of being hospitalized or dying from the disease. Safe, free, and highly effective COVID-19 vaccines are available throughout Arizona. Visit azhealth.gov/find vaccine. Get the location nearest to you. NFL AZ Cardinals is asking.
Hold on, Johnny. Hold on.
What?
You go into this like extremely serious read after I broke Frank. Like it's like the poor guy can't keep his composure.
I thought he was all right.
Like, people may die, and Frank's like he can't hold it together.
I apologize.
You did him dirty on that.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, man. I apologize for the read.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry.
You're all right. Hey,
keep going, bro.
You know it's serious, but it's not. You know,
it's very serious, bro.
We got to talk about the vaccine, but we also have to talk about Espo's walk-in closet. Both equally serious. All right, NFL AZ Cardinals asked, should we screw the picks like the Rams are doing and just exchange them for proven talent? Funny you should ask this, NFL AZ Cardinals. Put an article, gophnx.com, shameless plug. You can go get it right now if you remember, saying the Cardinals need to build through the draft. I believe the Rams, what they're doing, they're outliers, and a lot of the meat of the roster are draft picks. Cooper Kupp was a 3rd-round pick. They hit on a generational talent, Aaron Donald. Like they got Odell Beckham for nothing. I mean, they have been gifted a lot of breaks. Their model is not sustainable. Look what the Seahawks did in the height of Russell Wilson's peak of his powers when they were going to Super Bowls. They said, we're going to go give up picks for Jimmy Graham and Percy Harvin and now Jamal Adams. And it is blown up their roster. And they have not recovered. And it might result in Russell Wilson asking for a trade. Kyler Murray's not on the level of Russell Wilson. So I think if you take that gamble and something goes wrong, then it could all be done. Whereas at least in the draft, you get so many swings. And I'm not opposed to a 3rd for Rodney Hudson or certainly a 2nd for DeAndre Hopkins. But just to punt on the draft, I mean, we just talked about it. Older players get hurt. They're expensive. They put forth, expectations that are sometimes unrealistic. So the NFL, the Bengals are in the Super Bowl because they've drafted and developed well, and it sets them up. Everybody's talking about the Rams are going all in, right? Well, the Bengals window, we didn't think would be open this soon. They're going to be good for a while because they have Joe Mixon, who they drafted. Of course, they were gifted, Jamar Chase, where they picked him. Joe Burrow fell to them at 1, hometown guy, right? Like they caught a lot of breaks, but they're building through the draft.
But we won't be able to judge whether the Rams were a success or not until next Sunday. If they win, it worked. Like they accomplished exactly what they set out to.
I know. I think it's an outlier though.
Like, and the Bengals may never get back. Like, you don't know. To me, I agree in theory with you, but I would trade 1st-round picks because Keim's proven that he can't really draft in the 1st round. So why not leave him with the inventory that he's good with and get some talent? I mean, get some talent to that is proven that is good to go with those 1st-round picks.
But that's not good for our coverage. I want to talk about the draft for 6 weeks. I need
there's like 16 other rounds. Like you get rid of 1 pick, you still got like 8 more. Like what? It's not a big deal.
Right.
Look, and they take 1st-rounders that they don't even play in Xavier Collins and Isaiah Simmons.
Exactly.
So, look, our 1st-round draft picks have not been amazing, so we can definitely dump that. But if you look at an NFL roster, and if you have a solid quarterback, a good head coach that can talk to the guys and motivate the guys to get them to play, you're not that far away from winning a lot of ball games and competing on the next level. The mindset of getting a head coach's mindset is to get all these guys to buy into the system, to show up on Sundays or Mondays and Tuesdays, to give their all for 4 quarters. We've seen three-quarter football. That does you nothing. Does you nothing. We've seen a half of a season.
They literally built up as much collateral as they could and
Yes.
went 10-2, and then fell on their face and could not get past the wild card round and didn't win their division.
That's the sad part about it. So I think that's, you're not that far away from putting it together and having the ability to, as a head coach or a defense coordinator, offense coordinator, if you had a couple of pieces. And I think, of course, if our pieces don't get hurt, this is a different conversation. If JJ stays healthy, it's a different conversation. And of course, if D Hop stays healthy, we got a whole nother conversation on the table, what kind of team this could have been. And statistically, despite that, what COVID was doing throughout the league the last couple of years, but our team has still been effective. I'm okay with just going to get pieces, but not just pieces, but players that you can add into the locker room and have some sense of wanting to play 4 quarters of football, or just having a presence where the other team, offensively or defensively, has to change what they're doing. At least consider that we brought Zach Ertz here for a reason, and therefore the strong safety can't just walk down in the box and stop James Conner. Shit, you got to pay attention to him because he's a beast. AJ's on the outside, on the opposite of D Hops. That matters, so it should open up. Why did Christian Kirk have such a good season in the inside part of the football, in the middle part of the football field? It's because he had 2 dogs on the outside. That matters. That's just names and bodies, but at the same time, these guys can be productive. So LA, if they win, you're right. They pulled off a fast one. And to get that Super Bowl championship and ring, it's worth everything, especially out of LA, because you've been the Rams for so long. And the only team that have won in LA has been the Lakers.
We've got a comment here. I think this is directed at Espo. This is I guess this is kind of the right show to ask this because we have the expert here. Espo, should the Phoenix Suns trade for James Harden now that he's supposedly available?
Hell no.
Yes.
All right, on to the next one.
We're going to leave it at that. I like this from Mike B. Cards need the picks. Keim just needs to draft better. Obviously, players will go to LA to play. Not very many will come here over LA unless we overpay. I would disagree with the latter. I think, Arizona is a beautiful place. If you've been in the greater Scottsdale area, Paradise Valley, that's where the players live. What I will agree with you is this. In my article, I talk about how just give Keim more swings at the plate on day 2. All of his Pro Bowlers that he's drafted come from day 2 outside of Murray and DJ Humphries. I think the strategy should be trade down from 23 and get him a couple seconds, a couple thirds, so he can get the next Buda Baker, Tyrann Mathieu, John Brown, David Johnson, right? Christian Kirk was a good pick for what it was. That's the meat and the bulk of the roster, and the hit rate on those guys is so much better. So I think Keim is going to have to pivot from what he's known since 2013 because they've had a good amount of money to operate with even before Kyler, with Josh Rosen, with Sam Bradford, with Carson Palmer. They were never paying elite quarterback money to any of these guys. If we fast forward a year from now, and if Kyler Murray makes another Pro Bowl, Michael Bidwell will pay him generational wealth. So suddenly now you've got a cap situation where you're paying Hopkins almost $30 million and Kyler Murray probably $40 million. And if the cap's over $200 million, that's almost, a third of your cap, or it is a third of your cap. You have to supplement that with cheap talent. And that comes from the draft, and that comes from the 2nd and 3rd rounds.
I agree. Inventory is key, right?
Yes. Come to the East Valley and say it's beautiful while your car is getting robbed.
Hey, what
man,
part of the East Valley are you in, man? I've lived in the East Valley my entire life.
In Mesa.
Yeah, I live in Mesa right now. My car's still got 4 wheels and all the shit in it. So
hey guys, you know where I live? Do we need to talk about this again? I live in Maricopa, Arizona. Population zilch, and I wouldn't call it unsafe, but I would take some safety concerns for a Trader Joe's or Target. That's all I'm saying.
Look, you live out in an island. Like, you're in an island in the middle of the desert. Who chooses to live in a city that has one road in and out of it? That sounds like a horror movie, not a city.
I was forced to do it. I was for this damn housing market. And listen, I almost got. I'd be priced out now if I was moving to Arizona. I wouldn't even be able to live here. I'd be in Casa Grande or even further. Yeah, I'd be in Casa Grande, close to Mike Luke. I'll be hanging out with Mike Luke in Tucson, but. Speaking of hanging out, gentlemen, it's been a blast hanging with you guys all week. We will be back on Monday. Saul, I'm told, will be back. So he and I will be live 3 p.m. As always, PHNX Cardinals podcast. Show some class. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us, right? Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate it because we're going to be locked into everything Arizona Cardinals this entire offseason. We're prepping you for free agency, the combine, the draft, all that good stuff. Saul says he's back in Phoenix.
Yay!
Awesome. Yeah.
Like
The boss man
didn't
is
get
back.
delayed again. All right.
Yeah. The boss man is back. We'll be back on Monday for Espo, for Frank. I'm Johnny Venerable. See you then.